Welcome to this deep dive, and today we're going to be looking at something a little different.
Oh,
Yeah, so we're exploring a single piece of fiction,
okay.
an excerpt called Pasted Text,
Interesting.
and we're going to be dissecting it,
Okay.
looking at themes and imagery
Right.
to see what deeper meaning we can uncover.
I like it.
Yeah, it's not every day we get to analyze fiction, for deeper meaning.
That's true. Yeah.
So I'm excited to see where this takes us.
Yeah, and it's interesting how you can find universal truths about, like, the human experience, even in a fictional world.
Right.
We'll be looking at how this story deals with grief and guilt
Okay.
and just the complexities of human relationships,
Yeah.
emotions that are very relatable, even if the events themselves are very extraordinary.
Absolutely. And, right off the bat, this story grabs you at that opening scene.
Oh, yeah.
A girl picking up her dead best friend,
Oh, wow.
Adeline, from a graveyard.
Okay.
And the author doesn't shy away from the grim details. Oh, yeah. The night is a bruise, and the stink of musk and sulfur are not your typical feel-good descriptions.
Oh, my gosh.
What do you make of the author's use of such vivid, almost overwhelming sensory details?
Well, it's like the author is trying to create an atmosphere of unease from the very beginning. You're drawn into this world that's both beautiful and decaying at the same time.
Right.
And the description of the corpse itself,
Yeah.
it's fascinating.
Yeah.
We get these very specific details, like the similar slice of jaw and the nose hump from a baseball, which almost make the corpse feel familiar.
Right.
But then the author hits us with skin, like a rain-licked plastic bag,
Oh, wow.
and the eyes slipping out.
It's disturbing.
It's very jarring, and it makes you wonder if you should look away, but you just can't.
I felt that too. It's repulsive, but there's this morbid curiosity that makes you keep reading.
Right.
Do you think that the author is intentionally playing with those conflicting emotions?
Possibly.
What purpose could that serve in drawing the reader into the story?
Well, it could be a way to immediately establish the central themes of the story. Life and death, beauty and decay, attraction and repulsion. By confronting the reader with these uncomfortable juxtapositions, the author prepares us for the emotional roller coaster that is to come.
Okay, so we have this unsettling opening scene, and then we learn that the protagonist has already dug a grave in her backyard before finding the body.
Oh my.
This detail really threw me off as
Yeah.
was going through her mind.
Yeah,
It almost feels like she was expecting to find Adeline dead.
that's a good point.
Yeah.
I found myself wondering that too.
Yeah,
It's a very deliberate action
right.
that speaks volumes about the protagonist's state of mind.
Yeah.
The act of digging with the shovel as a tool takes on a very symbolic significance.
Okay.
It suggests that she's grappling with something heavy, a burden that needs to be buried,
Right.
even before she actually finds the body.
It definitely raises more questions than answers.
For sure.
And then there's the ambiguity surrounding Adeline's death. The story mentions a fire, but it's never made clear whether it was an accident or something more sinister.
Right.
How does this uncertainty contribute to the overall mood of the piece?
Well, that's where things start to get really interesting.
Okay.
This ambiguity surrounding the fire almost becomes a metaphor
Okay.
for the protagonist's internal struggle.
Okay.
The story tells us she wants to believe the boys
Right.
who started the fire when they claim it was an accident.
Yeah.
Yet there's this lingering sense of guilt and doubt that hangs over everything.
Yeah, you can feel it.
I think this reflects how we often deal with grief and loss, especially when the circumstances are unclear.
Right.
You're left trying to assign blame, trying to make sense of something that might not have a clear answer.
And that tension, you can really feel that throughout the story.
Definitely.
And then the theme of guilt, becomes even more pronounced when the protagonist says, "This wasn't the sort of thing that happened to good people." What do you think the author is trying to convey with this statement? How does it relate to her internal struggle?
Well, that quote really stood out to me too.
Yeah.
It suggests the protagonist has a very black and white view of the world.
Okay.
Good people versus bad people.
Right.
And she's clearly wrestling with where she fits into that dichotomy. The fact that she even thinks this statement suggests she's grappling with her own sense of guilt and responsibility in
Okay.
Adeline's death,
Yeah.
even if we as readers don't yet know the extent of her involvement.
It's as if she's already judging herself even before we have all the facts. And then you can see her guilt manifesting in her actions, particularly her obsessive cleaning.
Oh, yeah.
She washes away dirt and makeup,
Okay.
and it feels like she's trying to do more than just cleanse her body. What do you make of these cleansing rituals? might they symbolize in the context of her guilt?
It's almost as if she's trying to scrub away the stain of her guilt and shame.
Yeah,
But true cleansing isn't always about outward actions, is it?
right.
It seems like these rituals are more about seeking control in a situation where she feels powerless.
Right.
By focusing on the physical act of cleaning,
Yeah.
she's trying to create order in a world that suddenly feels chaotic and unpredictable.
And then we get to this incredibly bizarre scene where the protagonist makes tea for herself and the corpse.
Whoa, hold on.
Yeah.
I did not see that coming.
Now, I don't know about you, but I definitely did not see that coming.
No, not at all.
How did this scene strike you, and what do you think the author is trying to achieve with this jarring juxtaposition of the mundane and macabre?
It was a curveball for sure.
Yeah.
And it really highlights the absurdity of the situation. Here she is performing this very normal, everyday act of making tea
Right.
while sitting next to a decomposing corpse.
Right.
It creates a sense of surrealism
Yeah.
that's both unsettling
Totally.
and strangely humorous at the same time.
Yeah.
But I also think it reveals something deeper about the protagonist's coping mechanisms. It's as if she's clinging to familiar rituals in the face of the unimaginable,
Right.
desperately trying to maintain a semblance of normalcy, even as her world is crumbling around her.
Yes. I was so thrown off by the tea party.
It's a lot.
I almost missed this other detail, the ants in the sugar bowl.
Oh gosh.
What do you think those ants represent? What could the author be hinting at by including them in this scene?
Well, the ants could represent several things.
Okay.
They could symbolize decay,
Okay.
the way death slowly encroaches on everyday life.
Right.
Or they could represent the protagonist's anxieties,
Ugh.
these intrusive thoughts that keep creeping in despite her attempts to maintain control.
Right.
Maybe they're a reminder that some things are beyond our control, that even in the midst of trying to create order, there will always be elements of chaos and decay that we can't ignore.
It makes you think about how we as humans often try to compartmentalize things. To create order and meaning in a world that can often feel random and chaotic. But sometimes those attempts at control are just an illusion. And those ants are always going to find a way back into the sugar bowl.
Exactly, and that's what makes this story so compelling. It's a constant push and pull between the desire for control and the inevitability of chaos and decay.
Yeah,
And the ants are a subtle but powerful reminder of that tension.
for sure.
Yeah.
So we left off with this image of the protagonist making tea, for herself and a corpse.
Oh, yeah.
And those ants in the sugar bowl, it's all so strange.
Yeah.
But then the story takes us back in time
Okay.
to a flashback.
Right.
It's the last time the protagonist saw Adeline alive.
Interesting.
And it takes place in the back of a stranger's car.
Okay.
And you can just feel the tension between them, all these unspoken things hanging in the air.
Yeah.
Why do you think the author chose to include this flashback at this point in the story?
Well, I think the flashback serves a few purposes. First, it gives us a glimpse into the dynamic of their relationship when Adeline was still alive.
Right.
We see these loaded silences, these subtle gestures that speak volumes about what's not being said.
Yeah.
It's like they're both dancing around something, but we don't yet know what that something is.
It makes you wonder, what were they holding back from each other?
Right.
And then we have this seemingly insignificant moment where Adeline tells the protagonist, "You're so pretty." What do you make of this compliment? And why do you think it carries so much weight in the context of their relationship?
It's interesting how a simple compliment can take on such significance.
Right.
In any other context, "you're so pretty" might be just a passing remark.
Yeah.
But here it feels loaded with this unspoken longing and a sense of missed opportunity. It hints at a deeper connection, perhaps even a romantic one,
Okay.
that's never fully acknowledged or explored.
Yeah.
And the fact that this is the last time they see each other alive
Right.
adds another layer of tragedy to those unspoken feelings.
It's like they were both waiting for the other to make a move,
Yeah.
but that moment never came.
Right.
And now it's too late.
Yeah.
That sense of unacknowledged longing becomes even more apparent in the next scene,
Okay.
which takes place in the protagonist's bedroom.
Right.
This is where things take a truly heartbreaking turn. We have the protagonist in a moment of raw vulnerability asking Adeline, "Do I disgust you?"
Wow.
What do you think drives her to ask this question?
Where?
What is she seeking from someone who can't possibly respond?
This scene is really powerful.
Yeah.
You have the protagonist surrounded by death and decay,
Right.
reaching out for validation from someone who is beyond offering comfort or reassurance. It speaks to her deep-seated insecurity and her need for acceptance, even if it's coming from someone who can't truly give it.
Right.
The fact that she needs this validation from Adeline specifically speaks volumes about the nature of their relationship
Right.
and the weight of their unspoken feelings.
And Adeline's response is just devastating.
Yeah.
You can only love me when I'm not here.
Wow.
You can only love me when there's nothing left to love. It's a line that cuts right to the core of the story.
Yeah.
What do you think the author is trying to convey with this statement, and how does it tie into the overall themes of guilt and regret?
I think that line encapsulates the central theme of the story.
Okay.
The inability to fully embrace and express love in the present moment. The protagonist is haunted by the things she didn't say,
Right.
the love she withheld,
Yeah.
and now it's too late.
Right.
She's left with this overwhelming sense of guilt and regret, knowing that she can only fully love Adeline now that she's gone.
That's such a powerful and tragic realization.
It is.
It makes you wonder if the protagonist is only able to confront these feelings because Adeline is no longer there to reject them.
That's a good point.
Death has removed the possibility of rejection, but it's also removed the possibility of reciprocation.
Right.
And then there's this recurring phrase that pops up throughout the story, don't tell anyone.
Yeah.
It's almost like a mantra, a
Oh.
desperate plea to keep something hidden. What do you think the protagonist is so desperate to keep secret? Is it the grave she dug before finding the body? The true nature of her feelings for Adeline? Or something else entirely?
Well, the secrecy surrounding the protagonist's actions adds another layer of complexity to the story.
Okay.
On one hand, you could interpret it as a desire to protect herself,
Yeah.
to avoid judgment or consequences.
Okay.
Maybe she's afraid of what people will think if they knew the truth about her relationship with Adeline,
Yeah.
or the lengths she went to before even finding the body.
Right.
On the other hand, maybe she's trying to preserve the memory of Adeline, to keep the relationship sacred and private even in death.
It's as if the act of telling someone would somehow taint the memory of Adeline. Like she's trying to protect the sanctity of their bond, however unconventional it might have been.
Right.
And then we have the ending, which is just as ambiguous and open to interpretation as the rest of the story.
Yeah.
The protagonist imagines herself as the one responsible for the fire. But even then, she knows she would have left Adeline behind.
Wow.
It's a chilling realization, and it leaves us with so many questions.
Yeah.
What do you make of this ending, and what does it tell us about the protagonist's character?
That final image is haunting.
Yeah.
It highlights the protagonist's deep-seated fear of vulnerability and her inability to fully commit even in the face of danger.
Okay.
Maybe it's a reflection of her own insecurities, her
Yeah.
fear of being hurt or rejected.
Right.
Or perhaps it's a testament to the complexities of their relationship,
Yeah.
the push and pull between their unspoken desires and their fears.
It's as if she's admitting to a kind of emotional cowardice,
Right.
acknowledging that even if she had the chance to save Adeline,
Yeah.
a part of her would have held back.
Exactly. And that leaves us with a profound sense of unease. We're left questioning whether she's truly capable of love and connection.
Right. Or if she's destined to always keep a part of herself hidden, protected from the risks that come with true intimacy.
It's interesting how the author uses the imagery of ghosts and hauntings throughout the story.
Yeah.
Adeline is physically present as a corpse, but she also acts as a phantom, a manifestation of the protagonist's guilt and repressed desires.
Right.
What do you think the author is trying to achieve with this blending of the real and the supernatural?
The ghost motif is a powerful metaphor for the lingering effects of trauma and the way our past can continue to haunt us. Adeline's presence is both comforting and disturbing. She's a reminder of what the protagonist has lost,
Right.
and she's also a symbol of the unspoken truths that continue to haunt her. It's as if the protagonist is being haunted by both the physical absence of Adeline and the weight of their unspoken feelings.
It's almost as if the ghost of Adeline is a more powerful presence than she ever was in life.
And then there's that chilling line Adeline delivers about only being loved to death.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe that's the true tragedy of the story. That true connection was only possible once it was too late.
I think that's a brilliant insight.
Yeah.
It speaks to the often messy and complicated nature of human relationships.
Right.
How we sometimes struggle to fully embrace and appreciate those we love until they're no longer with us. And Pasted Text explores those complexities with a raw honesty that's both unsettling and deeply moving.
This story is like a puzzle box.
Oh, yeah.
All these layers of meaning, And it's hard to know where to even begin, unpacking it all.
Right.
I feel like we've just scratched the surface of what pasted text has to offer.
I agree.
So what does it all mean?
Well-
What are some of the key takeaways we can glean from this deep dive into the story?
Well, I think pasted text offers a powerful exploration of the complexities of human relationships
Okay.
and the enduring power of guilt and regret. It reminds us that our actions and our inactions can have consequences that ripple through time,
Right.
impacting not only ourselves but those around us.
Yeah.
And sometimes those consequences can be far-reaching and unforeseen.
It's like the protagonist dug that grave long before Adeline's death.
Yeah,
In a way, she was already burying something, even if she didn't fully understand what it was at the time.
exactly.
And Adeline's death just unearthed all these unspoken feelings and secrets that were lying dormant beneath the surface.
For sure.
Yeah.
The story leaves us with a lingering sense of unease
Right.
because we don't know if the protagonist will ever truly confront her past and find a way to move forward.
Yeah. It makes you wonder, if the story were to continue, what path do you imagine she would take? Would she succumb to the weight of her guilt? Or would she find a way to make amends with the living and the dead?
That's a question that sticks with you.
It does.
And I think that's the brilliance of pasted text. It doesn't offer easy answers or neat resolutions.
Right.
Instead, it leaves you with a sense of unease, a feeling that there's still more to uncover, more to understand about the protagonist and the choices she made.
What are your thoughts on the ambiguity of the ending? Do you find it frustrating, or do you think it adds to the overall impact of the story?
Well, I find the ambiguity to be one of the most compelling aspects of this story.
Okay.
It invites the reader to engage with the text on a deeper level, to draw their own conclusions and grapple with the complexities of the characters and their motivations.
Right.
It's not a story that spoon-feeds you the answers.
Right.
Instead, it invites you to participate in the meaning-making process, to wrestle with the questions that linger long after you finish reading.
I agree, and for me, that's what makes fiction so powerful.
Yeah.
It allows us to explore complex emotions and challenging situations in a safe space. We can step into the shoes of the protagonist, feel her pain and confusion,
Right.
and try to make sense of the choices she makes, even if we don't condone them.
And in doing so, we might gain a deeper understanding of our own humanity, our own capacity for both love and darkness.
Right.
Pasted text reminds us that even in the darkest of stories, there's always something to learn about ourselves and the world around us.
It's a story that stays with you,
Definitely.
that makes you think about the nature of grief, the power of unspoken feelings, and
Right.
the ways we try to cope with loss and guilt. And maybe it even encourages us to be a bit more courageous in expressing our true feelings to those we care about before it's too late.
That's a powerful takeaway.
Yeah.
And it's a reminder that sometimes the most meaningful stories are those that leave us with more questions than answers.
Well, this has been a fascinating deep dive into a truly unique piece of fiction.
It has.
If you're intrigued by what we've discussed today, I highly encourage you to seek out pasted text and draw your own conclusions about this eerie and evocative story.
I agree.
And as always, thanks for joining us on this journey of discovery. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.